Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show has been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com. It's heavy weather out there, there's a lot of dark news, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of reasons to feel anxious, to feel low, to feel concerned about the state of the world. Now I bring you some hope today. I want to talk to you about my own torrid week. I had a shocking bout of anxiety last week, maybe worse than I've previously known. It was hard work, but I knuckled down and I worked through it. It wasn't easy. There were moments of fear and doubt. I felt horrific. I felt like it would never alleviate. That's what anxiety does. I'm coming to learn. I've been doing a lot of study. So I want to take you through a number of things that helped me out the other side and have helped to strengthen my thoughts on the other side. This is the Creative Condition. How are you doing, guys? Are you well? Welcome. My name is Ben Talon. I am the host of the Creative Condition podcast. I'm the founder of the Creative Condition, which is my ongoing obsession, my passion for exploring human creativity and elevating its standing in our society, helping practitioners to get where they're going, because I believe that our inner artists, and I'm a believer that every human has an inner artist, are the ones we need to bring to the fore to solve our collective problems. But we have to do that with defiant optimism. It's a form of rebellion in this world. So those of you who remember a recent episode with Tyler Schlossberg, New York City-based artist, motion designer, she's awesome. Tyler and I touched upon the need to work through the feeling of gloom that is out there at the moment and to make ourselves a receptive vessel for the ideas and the inspiration that we need to put a smile on our faces, to feel good about what we're doing in the world and to find ways to share that with others, because we need it, don't we? Let's face it, I'm speaking to you here from the UK at the moment, and we're off the back of a big march last week from by people rounded up by Tommy Robinson, who is a how do I describe dear Tommy? So Tommy is, let's say he's a conflicted individual. I don't like to judge. I like to look deeper. I like to look at root causes for the way people behave. But Tommy is essentially, he's the former leader of the EDL, which was an English Defence League, and a lot of the people who joined an alarmingly big march in London on Saturday, protesting, you know, saying they want their country back and rallying against immigration and all the classic traits. Call it racism, call it populism, call it what you will. I think it speaks to a deeper fissure in our society brought on by capitalism. I think that when you're walking around shitty rundown towns that used to have deep communities, post-industrial towns that used to have industries, when many plugs have been pulled and people feel disaffected, disillusioned, unheard, they tend to turn to people who position them as saviours, and Tommy Robinson has been very good at doing that. And the media has certainly played their part in positioning unfortunate people who have to risk the lives of them and their families to come across to this country on small boats. As if it's not hard enough them being shacked up in hotels and unfit accommodation, to find out what their future's going to be, if they're going to be granted safe asylum, to then have people trying to cause them harm, chanting, rallying outside their hotels. I don't want to get too deep into that. I find it very distasteful, but I do also like to separate the surface level, very easy assumptions that every person on such a march is a bigot or a racist or an idiot. because I think there will be confused people there, people who are hurting, people who are anxious, people who feel like they have nothing in their lives, who are being unheard. And do you know what? A lot of them people will have nothing in their lives, and that is more to do with capitalism and our dear leaders, our dear elites in this world, in this divided system, as it is to do with any person coming in from another country. Now, there's nuance to all debates, so let's not go down the road of mudslinging, because us, as people who care, people who are sensitive, people who have chosen this path of the artist's life, should be mature enough to step back and to look for those root causes and look at ways to use our work and our minds and our understanding to help, to welcome people back into society, to form communities, to speak to other people instead of othering. Because if it's othering and everyone's shouting at everyone, no matter where you stand on all of these debates, we don't progress. Who progresses? People with the money, like they always do, the media that drive these divisions. So that's as much as I want to say on that matter. But what it has brought about is a climate of doom and gloom and fear and feeling like the world is ending. Don't get me started on what's going on in America. I don't live there. I don't understand. I only see the headlines, but it's horrific over there as well. We're in a massive time of change. There's a massive global shift because capitalism isn't working for people. And those divides are causing massive cracks. And there's a massive opening and a massive need for community and conversation and shared spaces, so we can all just get back to looking each other in the eye and understanding that the vast majority of us just want to fucking get on. We just want to get on. We want to make a living. We want to feed our families. We want to be happy in our communities. We want to talk to people, be understood, be heard, and then just get to our graves. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what it comes down to. You've got 10%. A friend said this to me once. He said, I genuinely believe that even in these times, you've got 80% of people who want to get on. They want to get along. They want to get by. They want to have debates. They want to have conversations. We want to contribute. And then you've got 10% either side who prefer to call names. And they're the ones who make it really easy for the media to throw around terms like wokeism and racism when, don't get me wrong, there are aspects of the definitions of those terms that are very pertinent among certain groups of people. But when you strip it right down to its bollocks, those people on either side are very, very scared, and they're screaming the loudest, and that's sadly what gets heard and what makes for headlines. And it causes people to feel like we are all at loggerheads, and we're not. We don't need to be. We should take it upon ourselves when we see a bigger picture to make art around it, to create space for conversation and interesting solutions. Do you know what I mean? This is what I want to contribute to. So my point in all of this is that it's a time where many of us feel besieged. We feel anxious. I felt horrendous last week. It's one of the worst bouts of anxiety I've had. It lasted for 2 or 3 days. I had a night of sleep where I didn't get a wink because my heart was racing and my thoughts were completely hijacked by fear and adrenaline, cortisol. And when you get into that headspace, it feels horrendous. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm very empathetic. It was triggered by financial panic in my own life, panic that I maybe didn't need to have. I wasn't in as worse position as I felt, but the pressures of having a family and having to bring in more money than I've ever needed to bring in before, partly down to my decision to live where I live, partly down to the cost of living crisis, because everything is going up all of the time, and it's very hard as a freelancer to have certainty that you can meet those demands. Quick swig of the brew, forgive me. Quick thank you, by the way, to the founding sponsor of the show, Illustration X, been here since day one, been very supportive. Been a major reason why I've been able to stay afloat and bring you these conversations and keep making the art that I want to make and keep coaching people. So big thank you to those guys. They also do a lot of awesome work for our industry. They represent a lot of the world's greatest illustration and animation talent, and you can see all of that good stuff and engage with what they're up to at illustrationx.com. Please do also consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute, who do amazing work supporting the creative Ukrainian community in this horrific time of war. So to pick up, what I wanted to do today, I wanted to pull together a list of the things that pulled me out of a hole. So full honesty today. I hope it helps. I'm putting my own story on the line in the hope that it resonates with a few of you, that you will relate to these feelings, and that some of the ways that I got myself out of that hole will help you too. A few weeks ago, I interviewed fantastic Wendy Dignan, psychologist specialising in anxiety. Please do go back and listen to that and consider it a sister episode. You'll hear Wendy's name mentioned in part of my solution later in this episode today. Next week, we've got Alison Heiligser coming up, psychotherapist and therapist from based in Singapore, from America, who does amazing work based around relationship counselling, but she wrote an awesome book called Beyond the Couch, and that's also her business. She's a force of nature, and she brings us so much great insight into human needs as part of this ongoing series of mental health episodes. But consider this another one. So this is a personal account of anxiety, what got me there and what got me out. So, financial panic. My mortgage has gone up a little bit. A couple of other things went up a little bit. We've shifted the dynamic in the house. So Laura and I, my wife, we sat down, we made a spreadsheet, we looked at everything. And when it stared me in the face, my costs, I freaked out. Not in a really overt way. I'm not a person who goes from a 0 to 100. I'm very sort of passive in a lot of ways. And so I sat there and, I went a bit quiet, and Laura's going, don't freak out, it's fine. I know what you like. You don't go in a worry spiral. But that's what happened. So as the day went on, no jobs came through. This was a continuation of a real quiet spell on the illustration front. The industry feels very challenged at the moment. I am making ends meet through my coaching and through scratching around in other areas of my practice. My coaching is something I would love to work with some of you guys with, so go and check that out at thecreativecondition.com/coach. I did a pit stop session in London yesterday, which was amazing. It's a deep dive into all of your circumstances. We help to get you realigned, get you on the path where you have conscious control of your creativity and you are designing the career you want to be living. So get in touch. Let's have a chat about that. But I got back to a better energy yesterday now. But for 5 days, I went off a cliff. I sat there, I looked at it, it was fine. I went away, I went to the studio, I started to get on with my work. Lo and behold, my thoughts took over. Now, this is what happens. Thoughts trigger feelings. The feelings are not always true. It's our evolutionary alarm system, anxiety, that is flaring up. Anxiety is not something you have. It is not a condition. It is something that is hardwired into every human being. It's something that ebbs and flows. It is a very valuable alarm system in the right circumstances. It sweeps our entire existence for threats. So once you've triggered the fight, flight, freeze instinct, which is what happened when I saw that spreadsheet, your thoughts begin to fit accordingly. Your brain is actively sweeping for threats in your world. So now I'm also thinking about the climate crisis. I'm also thinking about my parents. They're not getting any younger. And in a matter of minutes, the rational, the trigger cause, which was a concern, finance is important. We all exist under capitalism and we have to get by in that system. But by this point, my alarm system is just hoovering up everything. It's like on those old movies when you'd see a lighthouse at sea and there's big two lights are sweeping the ocean and the smugglers are trying to come in. That's what was going on. Nothing was getting past those lights. So now I'm scared about the dog walk, because how am I going to fit that in when I've got stuff to do? I'm worried about my parents not getting any younger. I'm concerned about what else landed on that radar. How I'm going to get my accounts done in the next month between now and January. For the record, it takes me about a day. It's not a concern. But in that mindset, in fight, flight, freeze, everything is a concern. So now you've got this vicious cycle where everything, it's like iron filings on a magnet. Good friend of mine, Jane Bowyer, designer in Manchester, described it as chewing gum brain. There's a little, you're trying to pick it up off the floor, clean it up, there's hairs going on it, sticking to the floor, there's bits of dirt on it now, maybe you've got a bit of glass in there. That's what happens to the brain, that's what happens in anxiety. And when we don't have the presence of mind to pull ourselves out of that, to address the physiological symptoms of anxiety, to stop, to breathe deep, to calm ourselves physiologically first so that we can think rationally and take action on the things that are worth worrying about. If we don't do that, it gets deeper and deeper and more terrifying. And then we feel like it's the end of the world. So you can understand why people arrive at junctures where they need help and it's really, really problematic. And that's where I was last week. And what it does is it disables your ability to even take the actions you need to address the concern. So then you've got the guilt because you're not working hard enough or you're not able to get everything done and you're operating on minimals. Then I'm a parent and I'm not being fully present for my kids. So I get guilt about that too. And it just cuts you off from your pleasures and your joys and all of the things. So that's what was going on. Friday morning was the last burst of it. Friday afternoon, I came up the other side. There are reasons why. I'm going to take you through those reasons. Over the weekend, I felt amazing. It was as if I needed to go through the suffering to see the solutions to some of my problems, to get back to my flow. Today, I feel great. Nothing has changed. No new work has come in. None of those concerns I mentioned have been absolved. However, my stance on that, my thoughts, have got them under control. This is a mental thing. This is completely under our control to resolve. That's the upside of this. That's the win here. And that's what I want to help you guys get to. So I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this, by the way. I've always put a big emphasis on this show on mental health because I think we're living in a mental health crisis for good reason, because capitalism is at fever pitch. I don't think it's working. Look around. Look at how everyone's scratching around, not looking after each other. Look at where the money is, the distortion. Don't think it's going to last. And I think what we're seeing is the kind of the fever pitch that it's got to reach, where that division gets to a point where it's going to cause a lot of turmoil before things get better. So it's leaving a lot of us, I haven't spoke to too many freelance illustrators, for example, who are in a great place. There's some. I've had good bursts this year myself where it's felt all right. But there is a lot of fear in the market. That global gloom, that global doom, what it's doing is causing fear from the top down, from the big corporations right through. People are just holding back on things, not signing off on riskier styles like they might have done. So it's a cultural thing too. There's many, many reasons for that. By the way, Illustrator listeners, if you're listening, I am developing a new program that I will be piloting at an accessible price. It's going to be a personal brand coaching session, portfolio coaching session, and a little deep dive into you. It's not the pit stop. It's a bit more expensive. That's a full-blown creativity audit. But there's going to be an Illustrator-specific thing coming soon that I'm working on. So if that sounds good, maybe give me a shout and I'll do you a little deal as a pilot session. I just think I really want to help people in our industry at the moment. It's tough times for a lot of us. So here we go. Let's get into the list. So number one on my list, a thing that helped. Lewis Plumber and other friends. So I hired, in the midst of all of this, I pulled the trigger on a little co-working space just down the road. In Salisbury, it's in an old fire station that's been turned into offices. I couldn't afford a full-blown office room studio to myself, which I would have liked in an ideal world, but there is a room up there that's got about 6 desks, plug sockets, nice light, some cool people hanging out in there. And I thought, you know what, I need to get myself out of this space that is not serving me as well as it could. It's causing me to have too much solitude, too much loneliness, too much time in my head on my own property. So I'm also at the risk of going for naps or going for an early lunch and playing with the dog, all the little traps, putting some laundry on, and it's interrupting my flow. So I pulled the trigger on a co-working space, and I went in there Friday morning, and I was on the kind of last ripples of the worst of the anxiety that I'd been feeling that week. So I felt panicked, my heart was racing, my thoughts were still plummeting towards finance, maybe 75% finance, 25% ecological. They're my two big antagonists, my insurmountables, if you will. That's something I go through in my coaching sessions. Most people have got an insurmountable of some kind, whether it's a family discrepancy that they can't overcome, the climate, it might be rising misogyny. I had one client who was worried about that, and we helped her reframe it into some really powerful work around feminism and around taking some kind of ownership, at least in her life, about that. So I walked in, and Lewis, who's a graphic designer who hooked me up with the co-working space, lovely bloke, he runs an agency called Mostly Harmless. Look him up, he's on LinkedIn, Lewis Plummer, Plummer. We run Friday drinks together in Salisbury, a little networking event. Lovely, lovely man. And he was sat at his desk, so I went in, I slumped on a chair opposite him, and I was just honest. I said, I'm feeling shit. I feel anxious, financial pressure, you know what I mean. Because he's a freelancer too, and we got into a conversation and I felt heard. And then I left Lewis to it and I walked out, and there's another guy, Rich from Blue Flame Digital, who designs video games and develops educational video games. Lovely, lovely bloke too. And Tim's there, who's an architect, Tim Scrace here in Salisbury. So there's a little cluster, and suddenly we find ourselves standing outside the kitchen, and Lewis is asking Rich how they can help me out, how they can hook me up with people locally for work. Tim is telling me about his own freelance turmoil, how a big project just got capsized and he's got a family too. And just standing in a little tribe of people who made me feel heard, who shared my situation, who'd been there, who are there, I felt a warmth growing in my guts. It felt beautiful. It was a turning point because I was able to go upstairs, start being productive. I pulled my thoughts out of my arse and got them into a place where I was focused on a task that was energising me, that was helping me feel more optimistic about where I was heading. It was a coaching group offer that I'm putting together for agencies as I try to develop my practice. That's part of a big puzzle. I've fallen back in love with my art recently. I'm also, after a period of sort of feeling a little disconnected from that, I hadn't been exercising my emotional creativity enough. I hadn't been making work for me. After I finish recording this podcast, that's what I'm about to go and do. Look out for a Bob Dylan illustration. If it goes well, you'll see it soon. That's what I want to make this morning. I also want to keep writing. I've been working on some biographies recently. I'm loving my writing practice. My challenge is to work out a system where I can give the time required to each craft to take it forward. So that's where I was. I went upstairs, I got on with that task. In a couple of hours' time, I felt good. I was in this new co-working space. My wife was taking care of the dog walk at lunch at home. She works from home. So I was able, for the first time in a while, to go, oh my God, I've got a lunch break that isn't full of responsibilities. So I took my little packed lunch, walked to the cathedral in Salisbury, I sat down, I voice noted a couple of friends about how I was feeling. They got back to me quite quickly. I felt great. The sun came out. There was a moment and it was like, you've got this, you dickhead. You've been doing this for 18 years and you haven't gone under. You've gone through a recession in 2008 when you were first out of the blocks, when you first started, when it was at its most fragile. You can do this. And I felt amazing and my belief came back, and it was a real tipping point, thanks to Lewis and Rich and Tim for doing that. They helped me out on a human level. They weren't just asking as lip service. The way Lewis asked Rich showed that he cared. I messaged him after saying, thank you very much, mate. That really, really helped. That conversation this morning, he got back saying, anytime you need it, we'll go for a walk around the block. I've been there. I'll need to lean on you sometimes. Sometimes Tim might need to lean on Rich. Rich might need to lean on Lewis. This is what happens. This is a tribe. This is a community, and that is beautiful. And that was the first point. So talk to those people. Talk to your closest confidant. If you've even just got one, pick up the phone, cry to them if you need to. Say something about how you're feeling. If they say, how you doing? Don't say, yeah, I'm all right, thanks. You. Say, I feel fucking shit and I've rung you and I hope you'll listen to me. Or if you're quieter than that and you're not profane like me, say, I'm not too good actually. I've been a bit down this morning. Have you felt like this? Get some rapport going on, bounce it back and forth. Even just the act of voicing it is incredibly cathartic and it breaks you out of the flow of those negative thought spirals. So that's number one. I'm going to leap to number two, honesty with strangers, because it's got a lot of the same themes. But what we do with our small talk is important. It can open new doors. On the dog walk here in Salisbury, I'm blessed with close friends who are dog owners. That's how we met, that's how we bonded. We bypass small talk and we get to feelings, we get to concerns and topics and disruption in our lives. But what I've started to do recently is just branch out a little further. And even the people that are not friends on the dog walk, who I just pass and say hello to, and we pat each other's dogs and we sort of talk about the weather, they'll say, how you doing? And I'll say, I'm not too good actually. I had a sleepless night last night. It was a bit shit. Do you know what I said? Do you know what I mean? I was in my head, I was overthinking, I've got that kind of brain. So all I needed to say, I didn't need to give them the ins and outs of it. And they went, oh God, yeah, I don't yet to know, tell me about it a couple of weeks ago. There was a problem, XYZ, I know where you're at. And just sometimes those people will come forward with a little solution or a little opportunity. It opens doors. When you talk and you're honest and you're vulnerable in the way that is comfortable with who you are on your introversion-extroversion scale, it's amazing what happens. Those people, they might just listen. They might just smile and they know you a little bit more. But if you're really lucky, they might reciprocate, they might come back with something, and they might even come back with something that will help you. Has happened to me loads of times. And then you hear things like, you bump into another friend and they'll say, oh, David mentioned you'd said you were feeling a bit shit. What's going on? And they'll give you the floor. And I'll go, oh, it's a bit better now, but I was here and I was there. And they go, I know it well. Read this book. Listen to this podcast. This is really helpful. I heard about this bit of philosophy. Whatever the form that comes on, it not only makes you feel more risk averse in your local community, but it gives you a little psychological safety because you know you live among people where there are still good people. It's so easy when you see the news and you see the Tommy Robinsons and you see the the other extreme people in the world doing their thing, to buy into that as what is going on. It's not the case. That's a tiny pocket. We can manage that if we in our local communities pull together and we talk to each other. We vastly outnumber the dickheads. So talk to strangers, be vulnerable, say something that's real. I promise you it will come back tenfold. Number 3, voice notes. The third extension of this, the third pillar, if you will. I voice noted close friend Danny Allison. I voice noted close friend Shane Gore, web developer and illustrator/photographer respectively. But more importantly, people I've had a deep, honest bond and friendship with for decades. Immediately they come back, they'll find the humour in the situation. They'll find their version of the situation. They'll tell me good things about myself from a neutral point of view because I get honesty from these people. I'm blessed with a group of friends from my years 14 through to about 22 where I met the people in my life who are absolute rocks. They are there time and time again, but they live in different parts of the country. They're also busy, they're also fathers. So what is lovely is this new medium of voice notes through WhatsApp. I drop them a voice note, I have a ramble, I tell them what's going on, I laugh about it, I'll also tell them that I feel shit, knowing that they will bounce back at the earliest opportunity with something that helps. And on a really primal level, just hearing the voice of these people that I love and they love me is heartwarming. It's amazing. And it reminds me I am not alone. I'm not going through this alone. So that was huge. Sometimes I played the voice note twice just to hear their voice again. Now that sounds desperate because it was desperate. I felt desperate. I felt horrendous. I felt like my world was ending. I felt like the studio walls were closing in on me. I felt like my house was about to be repossessed in the next hour. When the truth is, I'm a couple of months ahead. I've got a very meagre amount of savings. It's okay. I'm in an alright position. But I freaked the fuck out and I went into fight, flight, freeze. And when you're in that mode, it feels like you're about to die. Because here's the thing, with anxiety, what that alarm system is doing is preparing you to die. So that's why it feels like you're about to die. It's preparing you for the onset of a fucking tiger or a gun or your house walls caving in on you. The reality is different. It is imagined. It is your thoughts making you jump through hoops that bring on cortisol, that bring on a physiological response. But those voice notes are little golden offshoots, little outreaches. They're magic. Use them. Especially good for introverted people or people who maybe don't want to have an intimidating conversation. Okay. Number 4, the data. When I sat down with Laura, who is the pragmatic one in our family, and I opened my personal finances spreadsheet, it's progress for me that I even have a spreadsheet. And we looked at things. I looked over the year's accounts from January until now. And despite my terror, I'd had a better year than the last 2 years. When I averaged it out over the year, I had, despite some quiet spells, I had earned a fraction over what I need to earn. And what I need to earn covers my base living costs, some meagre leisure costs for the month so I can do a few things, so I can buy the kids bits of school uniform, buy the dog a treat here and there. I can maybe go for a day out, a trip to the cinema or the theatre. And I can put 50 quid in a pensions pot and 100 quid in a savings pot. That savings pot is pretty low, but I took the approach of little and often as opposed to waiting for that elusive big job to come in and then dumping a load in my savings, which is what I'd done for years when I was a younger single guy. But when I looked at the spreadsheet, I was slightly up on what I needed to earn. Which then the logical brain goes, so what are you freaking out about? And it's like, well, I don't know where the next couple of months is coming. It's like, did you ever, on this 18-year joyride, know what was coming in the next 2 months? No, you didn't. But did a 20 grand job once come in? Yes, it did. Did a 10 grand job come in on multiple occasions and put you ahead? Yes, it did. Was it predictable? No, it wasn't. Was it likely? Absolutely not. Did it happen? Yes. Why did it happen? Well, because I'm good at my job and I promote and I put things out into the world that attract opportunities. Yes. And how will it happen again? If I do the same? Yes. Fucking do it, you prick. Now, my fight, flight, freeze was well underway by that point, so that voice was quiet. It was pushed to the back of the queue. When I came out the other side, it was the genesis of me feeling better, because once again, I'm in the same position I've been in for the last 18 years. I am good at what I do. I have more things under my tool belt than I've ever had. They are monetizable. I am working systems to make sure I monetize them. I am not in a bad position. But anxiety does that to you, tricks you, sends you on days, weeks, months, years long fucking odysseys of horror, dystopia, and it's really, really bad. So, we'll continue with the list. The data. Go to your data. Look at the reality of your situation. Do not buy in to the thoughts. I would offer the same advice on a global point of view. Go and get yourself a copy of Now is Better by Stefan Sagmeister. Go and buy a book by Steven Pinker. Hannah Ritchie. It's on the Creative Condition recommended reading list. 2 of those books. I need to get Pinker's added, but Stefan's and Hannah's are both on the Creative Condition recommended reading list. Head to thecreativecondition.com for that now. But get Not the End of the World by Hannah Ritchie. It's amazing. Talks about the progress, the quiet stuff that is going on in the background that causes quiet revolutions of positivity, of improvement, and why, despite everything that's going on out there, in many ways, now is the best time to be alive as a human. It's empowering. It reminds you that good stuff is going on. So go and subscribe to Positive News. My wife got me a subscription for the print magazine, which is beautiful, by the way. Incredible organisation doing amazing stuff, shining a light on the amazing pioneering work that is going on to make our world a better place. So there you go, the data. Find ways to remind yourself when you begin to get those negative thoughts that just because somebody shared a reel of some dickhead shouting over an Asian interviewer on Instagram at Tommy Robinson's March, that does not represent even a significant percentage of people. It's significant enough to be worried, yes, but how are we going to address that? With optimism, with defiance, with creativity and rebellion. That's how we're going to address it. We're going to welcome people in for conversations. We're going to create community spaces. We're going to bring people together. Yes, even those people, because we want to hear why they feel like that. And we want to address it, don't we? We don't want to further alienate them and have another Brexit, another Trump. Oh, don't get me started. Don't want to rant. Okay, bouncing off the data into number 5, understanding anxiety's ways. If you can understand where anxiety benefits you and where it fucks you, it will help you massively when you begin to get in the negative thought spiral. If you don't, and it runs roughshod, unchecked and unchallenged, it will be the downfall of your career. It will lead you into mental health issues. There's no doubt about it. That's how I felt last week. This year I've had many spells like this. Okay, not many, maybe 5 or 6, but that's enough. That's more than I'm accustomed to. That's enough for me to be alarmed and take action. One of the ways I took action was to listen to Understanding Anxiety. It does what it says on the tin. It's a brilliant podcast by psychologist Wendy Dignan. It's how I came across her, and that's why I invited her to come on my show. So go back a few episodes for that. Interesting chat around creativity and anxiety. But Wendy's podcast specifically, if you are struggling with anxiety, will really help you to understand what's going on in your body physiologically, mentally, from evolutionary developmental positioning. Lovely woman, very passionate about what she does, also leading Fearless Female, which is a fantastic platform. So check that out. It's really, really good. Wendy has helped me through a number of these spells by helping me to not only understand it, but to make me realise that I'm not broken. I'm just suffering something that is very common in today's world. So understanding it. Wendy Dignan, of course, is number 6. Go and listen to her podcast. It's amazing. Go listen to the podcast I did with her. Number 7, Buddhist teachings. Now, I grew up with a mum who used to go to Buddhist groups and meditation. So I was always aware of it. You know, there was Buddhist iconography around the house. She taught me about some of the teachings about impermanence, about meditation. I always saw her meditating with incense and everything else, and I found it beautiful, found it very relaxing. It always made the house feel a lovely, calm energy. And therefore, it's something that's always been in my awareness field. So during this period, I looked it up because I knew that some of those teachings were leaning into the principles of how anxiety works and my ability to cope with insurmountables and things like the climate crisis. And in the Buddhist teachings, there's so much. I was reading, this is on a side note, I was reading Marcus Aurelius' meditations, and a lot of his meditations in that book speak about impermanence and about our belonging to the whole. And if we are following our personal thread, moving towards what we're drawn to, doing the work that we are here to do in this world, that it helps to remove fear of the future and fear of the unknown and uncertainty, because we have our cause. I forget who the famous quote is from, but it's a person with a why can deal with any how. That's the essence of it. That's badly paraphrased, but that's the essence of the quote. And it's very true. If you understand your belonging to the whole, the collective psychology, the species, nature in general, then it makes it much easier to deal with impermanence and with challenges along the way. So listening to The Way Out is In, a wonderful podcast on Buddhist teachings, there's a lot of lessons there that have really helped me to make peace with the impermanence of my life, of changing my industry, changing the environment, life and death, all of these big themes. And it's really helping me to create a framework that is not religion, that is not necessarily philosophy, but it's a way of understanding the world as I see and feel it, that helps me to govern my own principles when it comes to the way I live my life, creativity. So that was a huge lift too. So if you're inclined to look at that way and understand impermanence, and then I highly recommend The Way Out is In, or any form of Buddhist teachings. I never considered Buddhism strictly a religion. It's a way of life. It's a way of dealing with the suffering and the pain that is inevitable in our lives. I've said it many times on this show, but psychotherapist Phil Stutz, featured on the brilliant film Stutz on Netflix. Watch that. It's fantastic. He talks about the 3 immovables in life for any of us, any human on this planet: pain, uncertainty, constant work. If you can make peace with the presence of those 3 things in your life and change your thought processes to how you respond and not avoidance, it makes life a lot easier. And that feeds into everything that I was feeling with all of this. Number 8, Charlotte Bradman. So Charlotte is a fellow author from Keighley, and she's coming up on the show soon. And I was put in touch with Charlotte by a mutual friend when Charlotte was beginning to flex her writing muscles. Now, Charlotte had a tumultuous upbringing, a lot of turbulence in her childhood and adolescence, before eventually getting her house repossessed, losing everything. She had been living part-time in a camper van and committed to that lifestyle, being a van lifer full-time. She has since written a brilliant book, The Happy Nomad, which we're going to be discussing on the upcoming podcast. But she's never been happier. The loss of all that financial burden and material possessions, replaced with peace of mind, creativity, connection with her people, connection with nature, is just utterly awe-inspiring. So reading that book and talking to Charlotte gave me a scenario where even if those irrational fears were realised and I had to sell my house, I had to move out, I had to downsize, I had to even bundle myself into a camper van with 2 kids and a dog, really don't want to do that. But if I had to, there is still a scenario where I can be happy and fulfilled and creative. And on the dark days, that helps. But just on a human appreciation, human warmth level, I recommend you that you check out Charlotte Bradman's work. Her book is amazing. It's out there in most bookshops now. If it's not, you can order it. Find it easily online, The Happy Nomad. If you're in a position to, Get it from bookshop or an independent bookseller, not Amazon. It helps all of us creators. But there you go, number 8, Charlotte Bradman. Number 9, breathing. Simple as attacking the physiological symptoms of anxiety and the thought processes by deep breathing, bringing my mind into the present. Because if you can just break those thoughts for even 5 minutes, it's phenomenal how you feel a positive rush inside yourself and how it can just change and give you access to the first rung on the ladder to somewhere brighter, somewhere out of that deep pit of anxiety. Number 10, moving. So getting off the breathing, get out there, burn some energy, move. Maybe not when you're in the depths of overwhelm, because when you're in overwhelm, you just need to fucking sit still and breathe. But once you're out the other side of that and you've got residual physiological cortisol and adrenaline going around your body, one of the best things you can do is get out and be physically active. Go for a strenuous walk, go for a bike ride, run up a hill if you're able to do so. Find what you're able to do to move and do it, because it will just change your mindset. It will shift something in your body. It will burn off some of that energy. And that's what I did. I ran up and down the stairs 20 times. I'm very fortunate. I'm able-bodied. I'm able to do that. So before my wife and kids got home from my daughter's gymnastics, I was making the tea. I ran up and down the stairs 20 times until I was gasping, until my legs wouldn't work anymore. And later that evening, it helped. It just helped to calm me somewhat, because anxiety, when the physiological manifestation of it through cortisol sits in your belly overnight, you wake up and so the first thing you feel will be a nervous onrush because of that. It's a physiological response. And then you plug the thoughts in, so you're working backwards. So if you can burn off some of that nervous energy, it might give you a better chance of waking up calmer the next morning. So that's it. They were the 10 steps. There might have been more, but they were the 10 key steps that helped me to pull myself out of an anxiety pit, which is what was going on. And I'm feeling so much better this week. Now I'm very aware that that's going to change. There will be more financial panics. Of course there will. I'm a freelancer. I've had 18 years of it. Probably be happening for the rest of my life. So what I want to be is more prepared next time it comes, more able to shoot down and grab hold of the first threads of anxiety before it gets me to a place where I was last week. I've contacted the NHS. I have inquired about CBT. Wendy Dignan constantly talks about the benefits of CBT, of understanding and being able to take better control of your thoughts. So what's to lose? This has happened to me a few times this year. I want to get it in check. I want to make sure that I'm not making myself mentally unwell. You know, week to week, I'm an optimistic, happy person. I'm empowered by my creativity. I've got a lovely family. I've got support in my network. I feel great most weeks. But when it hits hard because I'm highly sensitive. And I just want to be ready. So if I can get someone who's more educated than me, who is a CBT specialist, who can just talk me through some processes, some defensive rear guarding going on, so that I'm ready, then I'm going to do that. So maybe that's tip number 11. Maybe that's a bonus tip. Ask for help. Don't be too proud. Don't be all British about it. Don't be all introvert about it. Tell people how you're feeling. Look at ways you can get some help from specialists. It's not a point of shame. All right, guys, so that's it. So thank you very much for listening. That is how I got myself out of my freaky anxiety spell last week and how I'm back to a much better creative place, a place of optimism this week. And I want all of you to be there. So switch that news off or go to a positive news source. Look at the amazing work that's going on in the world. Look at the responses to the dog shit that's going on. It's not as bad as it seems. Get on Steven Pinker, get on Stefan Sagmeister's Now Is Better, get on Hannah Ritchie's Not the End of the World. I can guarantee you it will lift your spirits. It will make you want to create and contribute to that cause, and that is how we address all the shit that's out there. Cheers for listening, guys. Thank you so much to the founding sponsor of the show, Illustration X. They've been here since day one. Look at their global roster of amazing animators and illustrators and artists right now at illustrationx.com. They're awesome people. The Ukrainian Institute, please, guys, go and support them, share some work, show some love. They're in a horrific time of war, but they're still making. They're defiantly optimistic. They're creating. You've got to admire the balls of that. ui.org.ua. Alison Heilichser is coming up next week. Amazing psychotherapist working out of Singapore, specialising in relationships. We're going to get into human needs. It's a big episode. It's a belter. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Please do tell a friend about the show. If you'd like to work with me directly, my coaching practice is evolving. It's developing. My pit stop session has been really popular this year. I love doing it. I'm also developing a specialist, kind of a mini pit stop for illustrators, a brand audit, a portfolio review and coaching session, and then a little personal coaching session to help get you on your way. It's going to be cheaper than the pit stop. Get in touch. I'm offering some pilot sessions moving forward as I develop it, so let me know if that sounds good. I'd love to work with you. Awesome, guys. Love it. Take care. Have a great week. Nice one.